Imagine a stadium that goes quiet for 1 second, and then everyone runs, even though there's no fire, no explosion, no warning. And then the next question hits hard. Did people actually see something, or did their brains create it together? This is the theme. How do crowds make sense of danger when the information is missing? And how often does the explanation people share later end up different from what their senses were actually picking up in the moment? Today, I'm going to walk through the 5 biggest myths about mass hallucinations and crowd panic, not to dunk on anyone, but to separate what people experienced from what later got believed. Here's the safe idea to keep. The impossible part usually comes from stress, perception, and rumor shaping the story, not from something supernatural. The most scientific move is to check timelines and environment against accounts. All right, let's start the countdown. Number 10 to number 1, and each entry will have a myth, a scientific explanation, and a payoff so you know why it sounds convincing. Number 10. If it was mass hallucination, it means people literally saw something that wasn't there. The myth says a group was exposed to nothing real, and everyone experienced the exact same non-existent visual event. Hallucinations can happen in groups, especially when stress is high, confusion is high, and attention gets narrow. Your brain is not a video camera, it's a prediction machine that fills gaps when input is messy. The weird part is this. People often report the same category of thing, not the same exact object. Think something dangerous, not a specific glowing symbol floating in the air. For example, a crowd hears a loud noise but can't locate it. One person thinks it's machinery, another thinks it's a prank, and another jumps to attack. Then they look at each other, notice fear, and their interpretations start to converge. Investigators often combine reports, video, audio, and timelines, and they frequently find an actual stimulus at the start. Even when the rumor later says the trigger wasn't real, the first cue often was. So the payoff is, mass hallucination usually doesn't mean everyone had the same perfect invented image. It often means people converged on a similar interpretation of an ambiguous situation. Keep that idea in your head, because next is a myth that changes how we think about the panic itself. Number 9. Panic is irrational, so there's no pattern to how it spreads. People believe it happens randomly, with no logic and no way to predict it. This myth is comforting because it makes panic sound like magic. If it's pure irrationality, then nobody could have prepared, and nobody could explain what to look for. But panic isn't magic, it's a social process. In a crowd, you're not just reacting to your own thoughts, you're scanning other people, who looks worried, who looks calm, and who moves first. And because information is scarce, using social cues is fast decision-making when you don't have enough data. That doesn't mean it's always correct, but it does mean it's not random. Sometimes panic becomes irrational once that shortcut points everyone toward the same wrong conclusion. Even then, there's usually a sequence. Early cues, word of mouth, then movement, and the crowd reorganizes around the belief. Forensics work in these incidents often starts with onset timing, where the first visible shift happens, who reacts first, and what signals were present at that exact moment. That helps test whether it began with a real threat cue or a rumor that arrived later. Payoff: panic can be patterned, and if it can be patterned, it can usually be explained. So we don't have to treat it like an uncontrollable ghost story. Number 8. The impossible part proves a supernatural cause. The story goes like this. People ran with no clear reason, accounts don't match, footage is blurry, and your brain hates uncertainty, so something supernatural must be left. When we can't resolve what's happening, we reach for categories that feel satisfying. Under stress, attention narrows, memory gets less reliable, and people can misremember the order of events, even minutes later. There's also a memory trap after the incident. Modern life floods you with retellings, and rumors can rewire what you think you remember. You might witness something ambiguous, then hear a clearer story, and your brain blends them without realizing it. So when something sounds impossible, that can be the clue that people are mixing perceptions, narratives, and timelines. And that leads right into the next myth about what investigators do with all this evidence. And now number one. There was literally no reason anyone should have run, so it must have been shared hallucination. The myth says nobody had causal information, so nobody could have had real cues, so the crowd must have imagined the whole thing.